Get started. Lyme disease. By the year 2020, 80% of the deer ticks will have Lyme disease. So to give you an overview, it's growing quicker than we can even imagine. My story is about my daughter. My daughter, when she was 12 years old, we believe was infected with the tick. Through those years, the doctors had misdiagnosed her early on because they thought there was something else. She had a rash that showed up, and at 12, they just couldn't figure it out. She didn't really get sick. She stayed fairly healthy till about 16, 17. Then all of a sudden, she came home one day and she couldn't carry stuff. She was dropping it constantly. So we couldn't figure out what was going on neurologically with her body. As parents, you're really scared. You're not sure what to do or who to talk to. We took her to our local doctor, and they really, again, we had no luck. To neurologist, and the first neurologist said it was, I asked at that point, could we do a Lyme test? And the neurologist said no. So we went back to our family doctor and said, we live in Port Ryerson, we're surrounded by fields, we have a lake on one side, fields on the other, we really want to check this out. So they did a Lyme test and it came back negative. So as parents, we were relieved. We're thinking, oh, thank goodness, we don't have to worry about Lyme off the list. A critical component. Again, we're in Hamilton at the neurologist. They really can't figure out what's going on. They were looking through all our family backgrounds, my wife and myself, and still nothing. But her progression was getting worse. Now she was having what they call brain fog. And what that means is you just can't think clearly. She's, at the time, she was second year university at Carleton. She's taking law, and she continues on with her studies. She's just finishing up her fourth year. But going through that process and having this brain fog and neurological problems, and to the point where she was walking with a cane. This is a 17-year-old girl who's healthy, who's active, who does everything, a real go-getter. So watching my daughter struggle with this and not being able to figure it out was really, really frustrating on all points. At one point, we were in Ottawa, so we seen another neurologist, and he was seeing my daughter, and he wanted to put her on all these medications they were basically immune suppressors. Now, if you know anything about Lyme, that's the last thing you need. You want to build someone's immune system. You need to go the route of antibiotics. In the end, with this gentleman, he told my daughter it was all in her head. Mm-hmm. So you're back to square one. We have a young lady who's quite sick. And it was just a fluke. My pharmacist in my hometown in Port Dover, known him for years, he said, Dave, I see a lot of cases of Lyme disease. And I said, yeah, but we already had her checked. He said, that Lyme disease that the Canadian government puts out is only right 50% of the time. So all of a sudden, you're looking at this disease again, front and center. The only way we could find out if my daughter truly had Lyme disease was going through IGeneX in California, a blood testing company, because they would break it down further to make sure, to see what the bacteria levels were. And that's what we chose to do through our pharmacist. Again, no doctor in our community would sign off on this. We had to get a naturopath to sign off so that we could actually get my daughter's blood work done. So this is rolling along. We're almost to the December of 2016 now. My daughter's been to the point where she's been home from school for 3 months because she literally cannot get out of bed. So again, she's deteriorating in front of our eyes. We don't know what to do about it. So this was a shot in the dark. So the blood test was sent to California. Within 2 weeks, we had the results. And what they do is they measure the bands. So they're looking to see how your body's reacting if it's fighting a bacteria. And anything over 5 bands in our country is considered chronic, especially with Lyme. My daughter had 6 and 2 double bands. So she was full-blown chronic Lyme. My own family doctor, who we took the report to, we had the naturopath read us the report and get his thoughts on it. We took it to our family doctor, who then said, let me look at it over the weekend. Now, by this time, I'm pretty upset with my family doctor because, no, you've misdiagnosed. She needs a simple antibiotic. Let's get her started. Doxycycline is what we were looking for. He refused. He did not believe. He didn't believe the report, but his point was, well, she doesn't have Lyme. So again, we took same thing. We went through the whole standard. This is a gentleman who I did work with in the past, and he wouldn't touch her. He said, I don't think we have Lyme in this area. And this is Norfolk County. When you look at Long Point and you see all the migration patterns, and you understand how quickly this tick growth has gone on, you get that impression that there's something going truly wrong here. My daughter ended up being treated by a doctor in Toronto who would treat her, and he treats other Lyme patients under the proposal that we not call it Lyme. Because Lyme doctors, if you're a doctor who treats Lyme with antibiotics for more than 6 months, you could lose your license. And that's a big, big problem in our province right now, in our country right now. So again, you're stuck. You're stuck. One of our other friends, I'll back up just a second. So my daughter is diagnosed in December 2016. Again, this pharmacist who's a good friend of mine said, you should talk to this lady. She's going to the States for treatment. McShane is her, Dr. McShane. So we went and met with this local lady who's struggling with Lyme. And my daughter went in, and she was with her for 2.5, 3 hours. She said, no, Dad, you go. I want to do this. And when she came out, she got in the car, and what she said to me was, it was just nice to know I wasn't going crazy. That I found someone else whose struggle was the same as mine and who understood what I was going through. And it was at that point that my wife and I went home and we sat with our daughter and we talked. And we decided to start Norfolk Lyme. The idea there was when we seen how much this one person had been able to help my daughter, we knew there was much more. There was many more in our area. So we started a group. And our first group meeting was a year ago, March, and we had 8 people. Our last meeting last month was 42 people. And not every one of them has Lyme, but everyone wants to learn. We know in that group, within that group, that will admit it, there's 8 with Lyme that are being taking treatments. 5 of those people are taking treatments in New York, not here. They can't get treated here. So again, there's another big misnomer because our own doctors are Lyme illiterate. And Brenda and I were talking earlier. There's a couple things I'll share. This came out in August 2017, and it was supposed to go to all the doctors in Ontario. And what this was from Minister Eric Hoskins, the health minister at the time, admitting that there is a Lyme problem. So that telling doctors, just because the blood work says no, if you see signs and symptoms, and there's over 70 signs and symptoms, you should start treating. Get them on antibiotics. I took this to our local health unit. They had never seen it. These are the guys that are supposed to be giving it to the doctors. So I'm going to let, I'm sure Irene can get you a copy if someone wants it. But that tells you that this problem, our Minister of Health provincially was actually trying to do something, and still no one's listening. And it's not because the doctors don't want to treat it, it's because they don't know how and they've never been taught. So a lot of doctors are Lyme, 90% of them are Lyme illiterate. They don't know, when they take their schooling, they never talk about ticks or vector-borne diseases. So they're really out in left field. And I've had more than one talk with doctors saying, well, come to our meetings. Let us help educate you. Like, you're not the bad guy. We want you guys to be part of this solution. And that's the biggest problem right now, is that doctors don't know enough about it, they don't understand it, and they don't understand what they can do. Harvard University put out this, and I'll pass this around as well, last year. I think it was last year. And what came out of this was, there was a young man, and I got to just double check, he was diagnosed with schizophrenia. And this doctor in Harvard was studying vector-borne diseases. She said, well, let me take a run at this. So they put him on a simple antibiotic, 6 months again, and he was cured. It was Lyme disease. He didn't have schizophrenia. He wasn't anything going on. The Lyme had gone to his brain. You have to understand that this bacteria can go anywhere in your body. It can go and it can hide. So you may have symptoms strong for 2 weeks and then nothing. You're weak, you're tired, you get healthy again. A little bit healthy. And then it comes back. So it can dip and dove and does whatever it wants. When your immune system is weak is when it comes out the strongest. So if you catch the cold or the flu, or stress, all of a sudden this Lyme disease is going to hit you so hard and knock you down so far that it takes a long time to recover. And that's what, one of the things that you find. Sugar, it feeds off sugar. It's a typical bacteria that way, and people really have to be aware. My daughter's diet, which my wife's always been really strict on diet anyway, but you cannot believe how clean she eats, and she has to maintain. Because if she wavers even a little bit, like the rashes start, and then and for her, this is coming up. We were just talking earlier. In February, it would have been 2 years a year and a half on her antibiotics, and now she's off her antibiotics, just because it affects your liver, it affects other parts of your body, so you got to be careful. But it's the best she's been in probably 4 years, health-wise. At least she's being able to do everything that she wants to do in university and enjoy life. The other thing on this that was really neat was this doctor that was doing this research at Harvard suggested, and this was very hard for people to take, is that it doesn't take 24 hours. If you get a tick, it takes 10 to 20 minutes. And that's in your bloodstream. That's affecting you. So people, again, are unaware. And when you see that sign and you think you got 24 hours to get to the doctors, no, you don't. You should probably get there quickly or get it out. And I didn't bring one tonight, but I know they sell them, your drugstore here in town, the big one. Shoppers. Yep, they have tick kits. And one of the ladies that is a general manager asked for Sandy. She runs with me. She got kits in as well. And you can actually buy the kit, and you pull the tick out, you crush it in a cylinder, you pour the solution in, and put it on a strip, and it'll indicate if that tick had the bacteria for Lyme disease.
So you can know just in a few minutes.
You can know, and we're going to go into that. You can know within 5 minutes, 10 minutes.
Okay.
And it'll give you a quick indicator if that test comes back positive, you need to go right to your doctors. Take that tick with you, take everything with you, and get started on antibiotics. And you can't just take 1 or 2 pills, which they try and do to you. You need to look how long you're going to need it. It could be a month, it could be 6 months, but you need to get at least a month's worth of antibiotics. So let's go back and say that you did go to your health unit. This is before this kit. You did go to your health unit and you took that tick and you're all happy, and then they ship it to Guelph to see if it's what kind of tick it is first. If it's a wood tick, a deer tick, a dog tick, whatever. And then let's say they say, okay, it's a deer tick, and then they ship it to Winnipeg. So you're going to be probably a month to find out if you have Lyme disease and not have any treatment, because there's most likely they're going to say, you know what, it probably doesn't have any Lyme.
Last August, that exactly happened to me.
Yeah.
I was in Long Point. I got a tick. I put it in a container, took it to the doctor, and it was almost a month before I heard back.
So
you're waiting.
I was going to say a faster way, which sounds really weird. Take the tick to a vet.
Yep, exactly.
Oh, yeah.
And you have to be careful with that too.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you said that, because one of the leading indicators, if you go to your vets, a lot of vets in our area, in Norfolk, now have on the wall how many cases of Lyme they've treated.
Yeah.
So if you look at those numbers, and if it's hitting that many dogs, you know it's hitting people somehow.
Yeah.
And not necessarily, there's a bit of controversy there, because they say dog ticks won't transmit it. But I know in our group, there's 2 ladies that got Lyme disease through dog ticks. And, that's another thing. The other thing that people aren't aware of, mosquitoes carry Lyme disease. They just haven't figured out how to transmit it to us yet. They carry that vector-borne disease as well.
And we don't have any mosquitoes around here, do we?
Oh, we have none.
That's brutal. Well, that's really scary.
But Harvard is doing a lot of work on this subject matter, and I tend to follow them first because obviously it's Harvard. The other place that a lot of people aren't aware of is Guelph University. They got from the Magnata Foundation $1.6 million last year. I've been in touch with the Dean of Science there, who really strongly believes in this program. They're trying to figure out a better way to test people, and what they're using is tissue, not blood. They think that's the answer. The leading research lady on this, and her name's Melissa, I believe, struggles with Lyme disease. So she has a goal.
A vested interest.
Yes.
Yeah.
She's driven to get this thing figured out a little bit. That to me sends a really good message. I think that's really where we need to see the money in that area. And the other thing about Guelph University is a huge veterinarian program. So those links are going to happen. And so people will say to me, well, it's pretty simple then. You just need a simple antibiotic. That should be easy. Well, it's not that easy. Because one of the reasons is there's no money in it for the pharmaceutical company. So if it's a simple non-patented doxycycline or something like that, they're not making any money on it yet. So there's no real reason to find a solution to this problem, which is really crazy. And I'm not trying to scare everybody from going out. I run trails 5 times a week. I'm out there playing and having fun. I spray myself down, wear proper clothing, stay on the trail, not off into the long grasses. You can go anywhere now in your backyard and find ticks.
Yeah.
If you've got leaf litter, check it out. Woodpile, you guys know. Check it out. You'll find them pretty quickly.
Our outdoor cat had 30 ticks last
Yeah,
summer.
yeah.
30.
Yeah, and if you go down our way, it's worse.
Yeah.
Long Point, and so it's spreading. And if you watch the migration pattern of the ticks, they're going right down the lake. Okay, and then they're going in. So I think what will happen eventually is you're starting to see Hamilton now has taken notice. So when you're starting to see the bigger centers take notice, then you're going to see more solutions come forward quickly. But right now, because we're such an isolated area, I don't think it's there yet. And we were talking beforehand with our group. You know, we get people that come from Woodstock. We get people that a lady drove an hour and a half in a wheelchair. Her husband brought her, who's struggling with Lyme, and she had all her tests done in Germany. You know, and these people are really starting to bond, and you're starting to see small clusters all over the country. Can Lyme is a great website to go to look up information.
What is that?
Can Lyme.
Canada Lyme.
It's just CAN Lyme, Can Lyme, and there's some Ontario groups as well. And really make sure, because everybody's different the way they absorb information, you really want to do your homework on it. I found with my daughter, just really studying a lot and trying to see where everything goes and who's leading the way. There's a lot of stuff out there that isn't right, and there's a lot that is.
Yeah.
But you've got to be careful and sort through it and fit the individual. You know your body, and that's what we've always talked about with my daughter. If you know something's wrong, then we believe you, and we need to figure this out,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I think that's the hard part, because doctors here, and I don't know what Tillsonburg area is like as far as the doctor's approach to it yet is, but from Norfolk County, it's not great, and Haldeman County as well. So when you're seeing that much, and they were saying, and I've got the stats here somewhere. Find them, the right one. Oh, Health Canada. So Health Canada. Let's talk about Canada. Public Health Agency of Canada said that more than 900 cases of Lyme disease in 2015, up roughly from 140 in 2009. In 2015, Dr. McShane, who's in upstate New York, she herself had Lyme disease, has 1,500 Canadians right now she's treating.
Wow.
But there was only 900 cases.
Right.
It doesn't even come close. In the United States last year, they estimate that 300,000 Americans got Lyme disease.
Wow.
300,000 Americans got Lyme disease. So even if you take 1/10, that's 30,000 Canadians.
We have friends in West Virginia, and West Virginia, Tennessee, Kentucky, everybody's got Lyme disease according to them. It's very common, and they just get treated with antibiotics.
Yeah.
It's like having a cold.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
In different places in the U.S., it's treated differently.
Yeah.
New York, if you go across the lake to Michigan or Pennsylvania, they teach their Boy Scouts about
Wow.
Lyme disease
Yeah.
and how to make sure they don't get ticks. We don't even come close here to doing any of that. So it's really, I guess I should probably tell you why it's never changed. So the Canadian government's report on Lyme disease, everything that they do is based on a 2006 American report. So it's 10 years old. The
More
Americans have
than.
actually stepped up and changed their philosophy in some states, not all, but they've sort of realized that this doesn't work. Dr. McShane spoke in Parliament Hill 2 years ago and said, I don't want your money. You've got to do something. Like, we can't keep taking we're taking all your, and it's, the first appointment with McShane is $1,500. That's just cut and dry if you're coming across the board. And you go there, and the ladies in our group that go there, it's all Canadian license plates that she's treating. So she's made a market for herself, but she doesn't want that market because she herself had Lyme. And I think that's where, that's her passion, right, is to find the cure. The big thing that our group does in Norfolk is to educate doctors. We're hoping to have a conference with Guelph University. We were hoping to get Eric Hoskins when he was Minister of Health, because he is from Simcoe, and try and educate the doctors on it. We think that's step number one. The other part that has not been talked about, which really bothers me, is schools. Schools don't take the ticks off. They call the parents. And if this is true that it only takes 10 or 15 minutes, why are we letting our children get infected? So we're working with, there's a really progressive principal out in Walsh School whose brother-in-law passed away from Lyme, and I knew her brother-in-law. So, that that's the type of people who are going to make the difference, right? Because she can implement at that level. But there has to be something down the road to start recognizing this, that they have to do something within our school system about it. And then hopefully, with our doctors, I really do think there's Lyme doctors out there who want to be Lyme literate. I think it's just a progression that's slowly going to take time. And our group, one of the things that I'm really proud about with our group is, we get Mayor Toby Barrett, our MPP, our mayor comes to our meetings. Like, we've really educated them. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to educate some folks in our health unit yet, but we're working on that as well. Because these things take time. But in a year and a half, we've made big steps for our little group. And it's funny, and with an election year coming, all of a sudden everybody's a little bit more interested in trying to figure out this problem with us. So it's a critical thing. My daughter will graduate in August, which is really cool. She does struggle constantly with Lyme disease. It never goes away. Your only goal is to try and control it. The bacteria itself, the initial bacteria is always going to be there. So what the hope is when they do treatments is to kill off any of the new ones before they get to that capacity. So what you're constantly doing is your body is constantly fighting it. In her case, she would go week on medication, week off. The week off is to trick the bacteria into coming back out. And then, again, with the antibiotics, you attack it. So you're just constantly on this little wave of medications. There is a lot of great products, and I think these ladies are going to address that. We've had a lot of luck with naturopaths who have helped my daughter sort of find a level of living comfortably, so that she's not always sick. And she knows enough now that she can't, she needs a rest. She can't be overstressed. She can't, she has to eat properly. But all those things work for her, and that's what we want to see. If you do go out on the trails, and there's no sense you can't live in an environment that's totally surrounded, use sprays. There's lots of great natural sprays you can get from different pharmacies. It doesn't have to, if you want to use DEET, go ahead, but comparative, you want to find something that works for your system. I'm lucky, when I run, I have a natural one, and it seems to work fine. I've never had any problems. And it just depends where you are. If you are down in our area, Normandale, Turkey Point, Long Point, be prepared. You will find one on you at some point. And that's just the way life is in Norfolk County right now. So yeah, those numbers are pretty crazy. Federal health officials are partly blaming global warming for this dramatic increase. I'm skeptical on that. I think it's always been, because of the migration patterns, it's always been there. I think it's been misdiagnosed for years. I think one of the big things that we haven't brought up today is dementia, Alzheimer's, MS, Parkinson's, all those diseases. 5% of those, you take 5% right off the top, is probably Lyme disease. It's being mistreated. The gentleman that helped my daughter find a doctor was told he had Parkinson's. So he was given immune suppressors for a number of years until they figured out it was Lyme disease. So they had to go the total opposite way, right, once they found out. He has since passed away. It was just, what happens is, and I wish this great story, this young lady who's probably 28, 29 comes to our meetings, and her Lyme was so bad she had a PICC line to her heart. Like, that saved her life. Yep. So to that point, that's where it could end up. It can eventually attack your heart. And we've heard from the Harvard study that it can go to the brain. So we know the neurological, we know the brain fog, we know early side arthritis, And usually what happens, in my daughter's case, her immune system wasn't fully developed. She was 12 years old. So that's stunted her immune system quite a bit. So that she's constantly battling it. On the other end of it, when you get to this ripe old age of beyond 50, your immune system starts to weaken. So you could have been bit by a tick 30 years ago, and it's laid dormant in your system, and then it comes out because your immune system's weak enough now that it can attack your body. So you have to be aware of that. And we haven't even talked about co-infectors. So co-infectors.
What is,
Co-infectors, if you get Lyme disease, usually there's more than one infection there. And what they want to do, what the doctors will try and do in my daughter's case is they nailed the co-infectors first. They went after them so that they could focus then just on the Lyme itself, the environmental stuff. But it was kind of interesting to see, because a lot of people don't realize that those co-infectors are there, and they're the ones that are causing a lot of problems too. So in her case, the co-infectors were taken care of, the Lyme disease is there, it will always be there, it's somewhat in control, her life goes on. For me, it was an education, for me and my wife, because you can do everything right for your children, everything. And it just takes one little tick to change everything. And, you know, a nightmare begins. And I think what it taught me was, don't believe everything your doctor tells you. Because you go there, and I'm probably getting in trouble with that
You're
one.
in trouble for that one, Dave.
But you go there and you hope to get answers, and you trust.
That's
But
right.
you should always do your own reconnaissance. You should always do your own investigating.
Listen to your body.
Yeah, exactly. Listen to your body. So that's what we figured out, you know, and our daughters figured out over these last few years. And I think it's just a matter of educating the doctors now. I really do. I think once they get on board with this, we can sort of get this under control somewhat. There's no way of just wiping out the ticks. I've been to meetings where they've wanted to burn everything and spray everything. That is not the solution. That won't work. There's certain chemicals you can use, and I can't tell you the name of them, but we have one guy that does that research for us in our group, and there is something that you can spray on your lawns to sort of help maintain. But again, if they're coming off a dog or something else, they're going to find a way to your property. Leaf litter's terrible for it on your yard. Make sure you clean all that up. That's where they love to hang out. So when the leaves are down, that's where they're going to lay. Trails, long grasses, and it's just they just hook on. When you go by, they just hook on you. So they don't jump or anything. They just hook on to you. That's what they do. And they're going to go for warm spots. So if you do, you're out and you're sweaty, check your armpits, check your neck if you wear a bandana, check, you know, the special areas, because that's where they tend to go to right away. The heads too, if you wear hats, they're going to be there. So you check your body over. That's all you can do. You can't stop living. You got to be aware of them. That's all I can tell you. I don't think I have anything else. Let me just check my notes. Oh, lint rollers. Last thing I'll leave you with. If you're going to go out and walk, take a lint roller.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Because if you're out in the woods and you sprayed yourself, but the ticks are still on your clothing, if you do a lint roller, you'll see them on the lint roller.
Oh, that's too cool.
Right? It's a simple little thing to do. Takes just a couple minutes. All the guys that I run with and train, that's what we do. We spray ourselves down. At the end, we come out and, you know, because we don't want to look good. but it's such a simple thing, and I always forget to mention that, but it's a really cool tool. Again, get a tick kit. You put them in your glove box. And if one's on you, you use tweezers. Make sure you get the head out and get them off. All right?
How accurate is this test?
Yeah.
They say 90%. I've used it, and
So should you do it twice? If you're positive, try it again?
well, it's not testing you; it's testing the
The
tick.
tick.
So,
Or the tick? No,
so
rather than you
if that
blow
tick
it.
was in you, and you take it out and you crush it in the cylinder, and you pour the solution in, you shake it up good, it's almost like a pregnancy kit.
Okay.
And then you dip it and you put it on the strip, and 2 lines come up. That tick was carrying the bacteria for Lyme. One of the bacteria is for Lyme.
Okay.
So then you take that to your doctor and you go, hey, and they go, what's this kit? And then you explain it all again, and away you go.
educate them. Just as an aside, a local vet told me about the oxycycline.
The doxy?
He said, don't even worry about the test or go to get a test done. A
Get
vet
the doxy.
in town. He
Yeah.
said, you just go and get the doxycycline, the drug that you mentioned,
Yeah.
antibiotic.
If they'll give it to you.
Yeah.
That's the problem. They might give you. I've had people that they went to Emerge, had a tick pulled out, and said, "I want this tested." And they're like, "I don't think it's got it." I said, "No, I want it tested. And I want doxy." They'll give them 2 days worth. That's not enough.
Oh, I see.
So that they're nice enough to give you a couple days worth, but if that bacteria is already in there working away, that's not going to be enough to kill it. If you're going to kill it, you want to kill it quickly. You don't want it to get to my daughter's stage where it's chronic. You know, you've got to get it right at it.
And something else he mentioned, that he said there was two types of doxycycline. One was fast acting, you take for 10 days, I believe he said, or there's another one that you take for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you're familiar.
Most of the ones that we've talked to recommend a month's worth of
A month.
doxy to make sure you're getting it out of your system. because you don't want to, that's not something you want to play around with.
Okay.
Yeah.
Another aside, a cousin of mine last year was diagnosed with Lyme disease.
Yeah.
She figured she got it in the 90s when she was summer camp on the
Same kind
St.
of
Lawrence
thing, yeah.
River and whatever.
Yeah.
And again, years and years of
Oh.
complications and can't work and can't get up. And she actually found a doctor in Vancouver. I don't know.
Yeah, there's a couple in Vancouver.
And she's gone to Vancouver
Yeah.
on her own expense.
Yeah.
And she's doing some kind of a blood therapy. I don't know if you're familiar with that or not.
She'd be chronic probably
Yes,
if
she
she's
is.
been.
Yeah.
So they would try and. My experiences listening to other folks talk is they go hard on the antibiotics, and then they try and. I'm not sure what kind of blood therapy they're using.
She's
on it.
I
withdrawing
don't-
blood and doing something and then re-injecting it.
Oh, really?
Herself.
Yeah.
Wow. You know.
But I mean, she's grasping at straws, perhaps. But I mean, she's been ill for years, and
I don't think we can even begin to understand what these people go through, because the first thing that happens is, in our daughter's case, is as parents, you're like, what's going on? Like, are you really? But my daughter was always a hard worker, so when she really wouldn't get out of bed, I was like thinking she was battling depression. Like, that was my first thought, right? It's like, this kid's always so positive, but she reads so much, like what's in her head type thing. And then when you find out it's Lyme, you're so pissed off at the system.
Yeah.
Because, this is a simple thing that in our area we all should be educated about. And that's kind of where our group is too, is, we got to educate, because the more that we tell, the better chance we have of helping someone before they get as sick as, when you become chronic, you cost a lot more to the system,
The system.
right? Than a little bit of an antibiotic right
So that
here.
that wave is coming.
As far as
people with
The
chronic.
chronic, like is
chronic's
that?
there.
It's
Chronic's,
there.
Like
Okay, so it should start
if
to
you
show.
come to our meetings and you sit around and one thing we always do is the reason, like when my daughter's situation, with that first 6, 7 meetings with the group, we just sat and listened to stories.
Yeah.
And it was really cool to see these women and men look at each other and go, I had that, like, I was battling that. Like, to see the light
No,
go
they're
off.
not alone.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They're-
and when they get together, they're like, we should have these meetings every week. I said, I can't. Once a month is
Once
enough.
a month,
because,
yeah.
because because they need that. They
But
actually
you can
need
start that, and then they can continue.
Well,
on
and
their own.
they like the work that we're doing, because now they see when you're sick with Lyme disease, with chronic Lyme disease, you don't know what tomorrow brings. You literally do not know if you're going to get out of bed. So for them, my wife and I, having our health, we can help them, right? We can keep the ball rolling. And so we give them jobs. We'll say, okay, you're doing research on what kind of stuff can you spray on your lawn, and we need to know what's going on with McShane this month. Has she found any new treatments? What's she looking at? So you kind of give them all little jobs, and we all meet back every month and try and report to each other. And we were lucky enough to have David Lloyd, who was here a month ago. He treats Lyme as well, and he came down from Ingersoll and spoke to our group. And at the same time, we had a naturopath from Oshwegan, who her and her daughter both have Lyme disease, and she spoke. And it was really cool to see all these people. Like, we got to give out that information, right? And so alternatives.
Do you have like a video link up? I'm thinking of my cousin in Ottawa. She a way that she can sort of attend by just listening or something
We're
like
taping.
that?
We can send this.
Yeah.
No, he means
But
with
to your
our
group,
meetings.
with your
Yeah.
group.
During meetings,
Usually-
she can interact maybe with
We've done my daughter, because she's in Ottawa. If she wants to call and sit in,
Your daughter's in Ottawa?
yeah, my daughter's in Ottawa.
Carlton, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So what we do is, she'll say the meeting's at Sunday. I said, okay, I'll just call her and put her on speaker, and then she's in the
She's
conversation.
She's in Kentville.
Kentville.
Just
Okay.
south of Ottawa.
Yeah, so she could tell if she wants to. That could be easy enough done. Video link, I don't know. I would hesitate with the group. You know what I mean? I'm not sure how many would be comfortable with that yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I know the audio's fine, because
Yeah, that was suffice.
that gets you involved in the conversation. And what we did is, the one lady in Waterloo, now they're starting a group in Waterloo.
Yeah.
So, we need to, we've helped her, and we're helping her set up her own. And, that's the thing where you're starting to see all these little hubs of it connecting, which is important. But we do need to have, in this area, we do need to have a conference, because I said to our guys, we can put ads and everything, we can do whatever we want, but until we get the doctors to sit down at a table and listen to what Guelph University's saying, what the Minister of Health's saying, we're not going to get anywhere. because they're not going to listen. Not in a bad way. It's just they don't have time.
It's just, that's right.
Because the Ontario College of
You might want to
Physicians have annual meetings. Can you get
no.
platform or
I think
something?
what happens is I'm just joking. I think
that's
the College of Physicians is the mechanism that needs to be convinced that Lyme disease is really there, and they need to be able to teach these doctors more about that and understand it. That's one of the roadblocks right now. To be honest with you, that's one of the things that has to change, and it's important that that does. But, yeah, it's controversial, right? Lyme disease, because some people actually believe it doesn't exist. I know doctors who say Lyme disease does not exist. Chronic Lyme does not exist. And yet you can show them people that are struggling with life, and they'll say, well, that could be Parkinson's, that could be MS, that could be... But you know, if you've been around them, you know what's going on in their lives and what they're battling. One of our ladies that's one of our Lyme survivors, I want to say, is a 70-year-old nurse, and she's front line and center. She's always helping organize things and talk to people, and she goes out and speaks as much as I do on it, and that's important. We did Provis Club in Port Dover a month ago, 160 people that we spoke to on it, and my friend at the apothecary was sold out of kits. Because they didn't know, and this is the first thing. They're all gardeners, and they all want to be safe, right? Yeah. So they're out there, and they don't want to stop doing what they enjoy, and I can't blame them. But they're just taking those extra measures, right? And I think that's the way you're going to get the word out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Grassroots, exactly, and that's the way anything gets done in this area of this country.
So tell us a little bit about how people can find out more about your group.
Boy.
Magazines here at the store.
Yes, we do have an email address. We don't have a website. Norfolk Lyme Facebook page. You can go there and check it out. What's our? You really caught me, Brenda.
Show us the magazine, Dave.
Yes,
Yeah.
you can check
Our
out the magazine.
Norfolk
It
Hub.
has lots of information in it.
And we told them we have them here at the store.
Yeah, at Hurley's. You can stop in at Hurley's Furniture and Appliance, pick them up. NorfolkHub.com. You can go to our website too, and we can take your emails. We have NorfolkLyme@gmail.com. So we can take, we do get emails in from people from outside the area asking questions on how they can get involved or what they can do to start their own group. And it's really simple. There's people out there who are trying to find other people to connect with this disease. So once they find each other, then it grows quite quickly, because then they have a better understanding of what each other is coping with. It's a disease that makes people feel guilty about being sick. That's the problem, because you're almost ashamed that you have it. And I think that's one of the things that leads people to sort of hide away, because if neurologically, if my arm's not working, I'm probably going to put it back here, aren't I?
Yep.
And then we all tend to do that. So this is something that we need to bring out so that people will talk about it more. All right, any questions? Get out of the way.
Thank you very much. No, thank you, Dave.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.